This is Empowering from Within, a show here to remind us how strong and excellent and valuable we all are, and that we all get to love ourselves and our lives no matter what. Welcome to another episode. I am thrilled to have you with me. Let's get into some seriously deep identity work today. And let's talk about how to actually practically overcome challenges in our lives and achieve anything in our lives. This is something that high performers and pro level athletes know and integrate and embody every day of their lives. And this is something that I learned firsthand when I was a teenager, and my whole life was flipped upside down and kind of stripped away from me through illness and injury when I was a university student. And some of the practical tools and techniques to when you are in it, when you are really, really trying to achieve something, or you are truly trying to overcome a very, very challenging situation. This is one part of the recipe to move through any challenging situation or achieve any massive epic feat that you are out there trying to achieve. And what is interesting is that obviously people who are drawn to this podcast are often spiritual people who have a great understanding of how important our inner world is in shaping our outer reality. And as a spiritual person who has gone down all the rabbit holes, one of the most helpful pieces of advice I was ever given was that, yes, we can do all the mindset and energetic work, but living in a material, physical world, we also need to take physical actions. So to achieve anything, to manifest anything, to overcome anything, we need to take 100% responsibility for our energy and our inner game, and 100% responsibility for our outer actions and physical ways of showing up, our behavior, our actual physical conduct and ways of operating. So let's get into the non-physical part first. So as many know, one of my most profoundly life-changing experiences was having a near fatal illness at the age of 18 when I was a university student, and walking into a hospital as one person in one body, and then 5 weeks later waking up from a coma in a completely different and severely injured new body. I lost both my legs below the knee and my left hand and a lot of my vision. And I've said many times that one of the turning points for me was when my friends first started to come and visit. And I started to remember who I was and my sense of self and my identity and my self-image. Because up until that point, I was an 18-year-old university student with her whole life ahead of her. I valued my friends. I was cool. I thought I was cool. I was interested in socializing and getting a cool degree and a cool job and having fun and traveling. And I was definitely someone who liked to achieve things, like being very interested in achieving positions of responsibility at my all-girls boarding school. I had become prefect and border captain and then taken a gap year and traveled and learned Spanish. And I then went to university to undertake, degrees to try and get a cool job. And at the same time, I was also a bit of a rat bag and I grew up in kind of a strict household. And so there was a side of me that kind of let loose at uni and when I was out of my parents' gaze, and certainly had a bit of a rebellious streak to me. Now, when I remembered when I woke up that image of myself as this kind of cool young girl with a bit of a rebellious streak that wasn't always very interested in following arbitrary rules and strict guidelines for no reason and wanted to push back against certain constrictions and wanted to socialize and be with her friends, that identity and that image of myself that I had been for the preceding 18 years before I entered that hospital, once I came back online and I started to embody that young girl, that young cool girl, I suddenly started to make decisions and take actions and interact with the doctor's advice in a very, very different way to how I was before that when I was processing what had happened. When I first woke up, it took me a long time to kind of digest everything that had gone down and the irreversibility of my injuries. But as soon as my self-image came back online, I had such a different experience in hospital. And I held onto that self-image in the most rock steady, unshakable way, because all evidence, all material and physical evidence around me was telling me I was no longer that cool young girl with her whole life ahead of her. Every doctor, nurse, most family members, I'm not saying they didn't care. They obviously cared and were like incredible beacons of support. But in their eyes and in their minds, I was not that cool young girl anymore. I was a very, very unlucky, life over type girl who would possibly never be independent again, would possibly never return to university, and who had a lot of limitations placed on her. And I just fortunately never took on the identity that they were reflecting to me, because my sense of self was so untouchable and so strong, thank goodness. And so when doctors were telling me that I needed a wheelchair full time, that it was, hit and miss whether I'd be going back to university, I just did not listen. I just knew in my heart of hearts that I was returning to university, that I was this other version of Phoebe that they had not met. A lot of the hospital staff obviously had never met me before I had become so injured and so close to death and so deeply unwell. And so I just kept living from that inner self-image. And a cool young university student with her whole life ahead of her acts very differently in a hospital to a sad young girl who's had her whole life ruined. I took my physio so seriously. I embraced wearing prosthetic legs because I knew it was a gateway to freedom and independence. I worked so hard to regain my muscle strength. I was an absolute dog with a bone in my entire rehab and recovery because I just knew. I didn't know how I was going to get back to my life, but I just knew my life wasn't over and I was going to rebuild. And even when, as you can imagine in a hospital setting, there's a lot of up and down days with good prognoses and crappy prognoses and people giving you opinions that aren't in alignment with you going back to uni and people giving you, very devastating information about, I remember getting a lot of bad prognoses about my eyes and my internal organs. People kept telling me about this woman who had had a similar allergic reaction to me, who had left ICU and gone home and lost some of her limbs, who had been discharged from hospital and went home and very sadly passed away. No one was telling me about the stories of the people who got up out of their hospital beds with missing limbs and low vision and went on to rebuild and conquer their life. There were no precedents before me. And as lawyers, we love a good precedent to follow. But I did not have the precedent or the jurisprudence to prove to me that this was going to happen, that I was going to be able to return to my life. The only thing I had was my sense of self as a young girl with her whole life ahead of her who was going to return to university. And holding on to that sense of self and taking actions in alignment with that self-image meant that slowly but surely my reality shifted around me. And before you knew it, 18 months after first walking into that hospital, I was back at university, living in a share house with 5 of my friends, walking around campus on prosthetic legs with legal blindness and figuring out how to undertake and complete my studies. And I can hand on heart say that it was the internal sense of self and taking actions in alignment with that internal sense of self that helped me overcome the most devastating illness I have ever experienced and return to rebuild and enjoy my life. And this can now be extrapolated as our very exciting little formula for how to achieve anything and how to overcome anything. So if you want to achieve a certain career or a certain milestone in your career, if you want to enjoy a certain kind of marriage or relationship, if you want to have a certain type of social life, if you want to have a certain type of financial success, then we can assume the energetic self-image and energetic blueprint of the person who has already achieved those things and who is already that person with all the things that we're trying to achieve, and start taking actions, making decisions, and behaving in an internal and external way as the person who has the dream career, as the person who has the excellent marriage, and as the person who has the financial life that you want. Because it is more than just identity work. It is more than just taking actions. It is both glommed together that help us overcome and achieve anything in our lives. And on the way to achieving these things, we are going to learn and master the skills we need in order to hold them. Along the way of me getting back to uni and taking those actions and assuming that identity of a young girl with her whole life ahead of her, I rose to every challenge of learning to walk, learning to get around uni, learning to study and take in information when I had low vision. All of these things created a mastery for me to actually achieve what I needed to in order to attain the life and the result that I was after. And many people stop at the first obstacle or the first few obstacles, but the people who are willing to get back up again and keep going and adapt and find new skills and abilities in order to master whatever it is they're trying to achieve or overcome, those are the greats amongst us. And the people who are seeking comfort, the people who are seeking ease are never going to achieve or master what they want. So you already have an edge if you're willing to face and handle the obstacles and challenges that are presented to you. If you are willing to hold on to that sense of self and that self-image internally, even when the entire world is telling you this is not possible or there are too many limitations in your way. Because I can tell you, I literally have achieved the impossible. When people told me to my face, there is no way you can do a law degree as a legally blind person. There is no way you can work as a lawyer and my eye doctor said to me, like, this is, you need to reassess what you're going after. And I was just completely undeterred. Did it shake me in the moment? Probably, yes. But did I get back into my rock steady sense of self? Absolutely. And if we have the internal sense of self of the person who has the thing or has overcome the thing, and we are taking actions in accordance with that sense of self, there is no stronger formula out there to achieve anything that you want to achieve and to overcome anything that you want to overcome. And to add to this epic formula, one other important factor is our want and just checking ourselves on the things that we are actually going after. Because if we are going after money or a relationship or a career from a lack or a sense of wanting, then it is most likely coming from a wound that we're trying to heal or fill up. So for example, you might be going after a large sum of money in order to feel safe. Often the things that we really, really want have a feeling underneath them. That is why we are seeking them so hardcore. The money gives us a sense of safety. It gives us a sense of freedom. It might give us a sense of adequacy. Maybe we feel really inadequate because we have a wound of, feeling less than with certain numbers in our bank account. We might be going after the dream relationship because we feel unattractive or less than as a single person, and we just need that person to make us feel good enough. Maybe we are going after the career success because we need the approval and validation and recognition from the outside because we don't approve, validate, or recognize our own uniqueness. And so we are desperately seeking it from the outside. And I can tell you, having done this very hardcore in several different ways in my life, no matter how much money or how good of a partner or how epic of a career that you get, if you are wanting it from a wounded place, it is never, ever, ever going to fill up that wound. There is nothing on the outside that is going to fix an internal problem. So along the way of trying to achieve and overcome the things that we are trying to achieve and overcome, we also have to get really real with ourselves about the feelings underneath that we are trying to attain by going after these things. And for me, there was very little ego involved in getting back to being a student. I wasn't doing it to feel good enough or to feel approved of or validated. I just genuinely knew that was the next step in rebuilding my life. And I have certainly gone after things and chased feelings to fill up wounds in other areas of my life. But I can tell you the most powerful thing you can do, the most epic hack there ever is in life, is to fill the wounds yourself. If you need recognition, give it to yourself. If you need safety or freedom or control by having a big fat bank balance, you can just give the sense of safety, control, and freedom, but you can give those feelings to yourself. You can give your nervous system a sense of safety by self-regulating. You can give yourself a sense of control by managing your emotions, because I could put $1 billion in your lap tomorrow, and if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel in control, or if you don't feel freedom, then that is only going to be amplified by a giant bank account. That is only going to uncover even more uncomfortable feelings. There's not a lot of millionaires and billionaires out there who live a stress-free life. Money certainly comes with a level of stress in making decisions and making calls. And so in order to do that effectively, you're going to have to get your safety, control, and freedom filled up from the inside first. And there is no amount of incredible, attractive, epic 10 out of 10 partner who is going to make you feel worthy and inadequate, because wherever you go, there you are. You're going to be taking those inadequacy wounds into every relationship you go to. And if you are not filling them up yourself, the relationship is only going to amplify them. So 2, with the career, there is no amount of career success that is going to fill up your need for approval. And you're going to feel hella empty when you get to the top and the pinnacle with all the awards and all the accolades, and realize that you have just chased all this external stuff, but the wound is ever present and still there, and probably louder, because you feel like a shell of a person, and you can only feel good when your professional life is giving you all the accolades and all the awards. So 2 epic hacks in life. 1, whatever you're trying to overcome or achieve, assume the self-image of the person who already has it, and hold on to that self-image as steadfastly as you can, no matter what is happening in your physical circumstances, or no matter who tells you can't do it. And then take actions and make plans in alignment with that self-image and that sense of self. And then start to check yourself as to the motivations underneath what you're achieving. And if there is anything that you feel you really, really need for whatever reason, look at the feelings underneath the thing that you want and start to plug those feelings in for yourself. And the physical reality outside of you will start to shift and change, and you will be in such a position of empowerment that when the thing comes in, or when you achieve the thing, it's going to feel like no big deal. And it's not going to, we're not going to pedestalize it, and we're not going to have to hold on to it for dear life to feel okay and prop us up, because we already have our sense of self. We already fill up our own wounds. We already give the feelings that we need to ourselves. And our whole energy in life comes from a place of fulfillment then. We no longer are doing things or acting in ways that are trying to seek feelings and accolades and rewards from the people or the things around us, which is completely disempowering. It is the opposite of empowering from within. And people can feel that sense of neediness and that sense of inadequacy radiating off us when we are not filling up our own tank and our own wounds. And as someone who has read all the manifestation books and done all the deep dives on how to live a fulfilling life and achieve things and live a high performance life, I can tell you that our self-image, our physical actions, and being a master, and not just a manager, but a master and a leader of our internal game, and taking radical responsibility for how we feel and taking it out of the hands of the people and stuff and achievements in our life, is the most game-changing way to overcome or achieve anything in life. All the greats know, all the high achievers know, all the pro-level people out there in the world know that life is really an internal game. And I have all the tools and tips and insights and practical ways to balance any wounds, to plug in the self-image of the person that you are becoming, and every possible emotional mastery tool out there to feel good while you are overcoming things or achieving things. So if you are looking to stop intellectually knowing how to achieve or overcome things and truly embody and integrate the knowledge and mastery from the inside out at an epic level, then DM me or fill out a contact form for my website. And it would be my honor and my pleasure to give you everything that I know to up level your life and to stop going around in the same circles and never truly hitting where you're going and never truly healing from all the crap that has happened in your past, I am your girl. I will give you all the tools I can to get you where you are going as fast as you can, and you will do it way faster than I ever did because I've made all the mistakes and I have literally gathered a bursting to full toolbox of hacks and tricks and tools to get you where you're going super fast and to feel good and fulfilled while you're doing it. So think about something in your life that you really, really want to achieve. Think about the feelings underneath that having it would give you. Start to plug those feelings in for yourself and then assume the self-image of the person who has it and live your life rock steady in that sense of self and take decisions and actions in accordance with that self-image, and you will be freaking unstoppable. Thank you so much for being here today. If you want to keep hanging out, because I sure do, then head to my Instagram @Feedsgram or my website, phoebestewart.com.